Hi, I'm Mike. Welcome to the Farm Wolf. Today I'm going to do just a short little video on this Ford 3000. What I'm going to be doing is replacing the gasket on the float bowl on the carburetor. Just a short little video. I'm just going to take you along with me and show you how I change it. Maybe if you ever have one leaking, this will help you. Or if you have to adjust the float. I'm going to show how to take the carburetor off and undo like the linkage, fuel line, and remove the float bowl and replace the gasket. So hope you like this video, and feel free to comment. I always try to answer the comments, and again, enjoy the video. This carburetor is Holly, and I'm going to use 9/16 wrench, and I'm going to start with these two nuts up here that hold the carburetor to the manifold. I got the nut off there, and on this one, I don't know if you can see because of my fingers. I'll try to get the wrench and show you, but the stud and nut and all are turning off. So sometimes when that happens, you know, you have to drop the carburetor down as the stud's coming off, so to clear the manifold, and just pull the carburetor away from it as you get it loosened. All right, now you can see, you know, that I've dropped the carburetor down, but if you don't drop it down, you can see that stud won't come out. But you actually don't have to have it all the way out. Just loosen the carburetor, or loosen this nut stud enough so that the carburetor will drop down. And I still have a couple other steps. I got to take the fuel line loose back here, and I got the choke cable, but I just wanted to show you that. If you have trouble, you know, you can get around that. It's not a big deal. For the choke cable, I had to get a stubby screwdriver. It's the only thing that I could get to fit down in there. And the good news is, you know, you really don't have to turn it out very far to get that cable loosened for it to slide out. And if you want, you don't have to do this, but might make it a little easier. I got that screw a little bit loose already. I don't know if you can see it or not. Right there, you can take that loose. That's actually just holds the choke cable in place. You can take that loose and just pull the whole thing out of the way, hopefully. I might have to loosen this up a little bit more by hand. It should, there, should pull on out like that. Okay, now the next step here is get the fuel line loose. I realize the lighting ain't the best here where you can see that, but you can get a wrench. It's a little bit of a job to get it in there and turn it, which I might end up having to take this distributor cap off so I can get in there a little bit better. I'm not sure yet. We'll just play it by ear. I might not have to. It looks like it's going. I get it a little bit farther out here. It's giving me a little bit of trouble now, but I'll see if I can take it off by hand, and then we'll take off the hose here, and I think the carburetor at that point should drop down. I removed that spark plug wire so you can see this. If you ever have trouble with this, it's a 11/16 wrench fits this on mine. You can just kind of angle your wrench back at an angle, and it kind of makes it where you can get in there on that nut for the fuel line. So just takes a little patience. They really didn't make anything on this tractor easy to get to. So I just wanted to show you that. And I think it's easier to take your mounting nuts loose for the carburetor to the manifold first. That way you've got a little bit of play to work with on your carburetor to the fuel line. You can kind of drop it down. Makes it a little bit easier to get your wrench in there. What I did, if you can see or not, I thought I had that nut loose enough, and I did. I just took the end of my wrench here and just pushed on the nut, and I pushed it off. This one I kind of had it loose already, but it didn't have the hose clamps on it. but which is kind of loose up top there, but this thing can kind of be difficult to kind of get off. But I think it might be close to coming off, maybe not. Oh no, I still have the throttle linkage to disconnect, and it's got a, get my screwdriver so I can point to this. Right here is the carburetor linkage, and there's a ball there on this butterfly valve, and that ball has like a retaining clip, and that should, if I can get it with here and filming, just push off. And I'm kind of having a little bit of a trouble, a little bit of a time with it. I might have to try to pry that clip open a little bit, or just move it off. There we go. I guess you saw how that worked, but there's the carburetor off. Now we'll take the float bowl off of it. Wanted to point this out. My gasket from the carburetor to the intake is good. There's nothing wrong with reusing these. I've done it countless times. As long as it's not ripped or whatever, you can reuse it. I've never had a problem with it. Here's a little trick that I like to use. This these screws that hold on the bowl, they're obviously a Phillips. But when these bolts, if I ever find any carburetor's got a shoulder on them like these, I like to take a pair of pliers. These are high leverage pliers, so they grip really good. And I like to break them loose first with pliers. This works good like on motorcycle, four-wheeler, lawnmower carburetors as well. And why I do that is these carburetors, you know, they've been sitting for a while. They will get where these screws are kind of seized in there. And if you just try to get them out with a Phillips screwdriver by themselves, 9 times out of 10, you'll strip the head out of the screw. Then you really got a problem. So, one of the easiest ways I found to do it is just take this pair of pliers and break them loose. Which this one, I might have to do it off camera. I don't know if I got that broke loose or not, but after you do that, they'll come right out. So that's a good little tip for you. If you've ever had trouble with these, ever stripped any out, I've heard of people, you know, telling me, well, they just take like an impact driver, you know, the kind that you put the socket on or whatever, and you hit with a hammer. They'll do it that way, but I don't like doing that because it can slip out. It can damage your screws. You could, let's just say you missed the impact driver, it slid off and you hit your float bowl and you mess that up. Then you're kind of in some trouble. So this is an easy way that I found to do it. Hopefully you can use this trick on your carburetor or four-wheeler, motorcycle, whatever. Just wanted to show you that. Forgot to show you this part, but you need to take this screw off. It holds this piece on it. I guess it's like a retaining piece for this piece of the carburetor right here. You have to take that off as well. When you get your screw loose from that, it just raises up, pulls out. Has a little place where it slides in there. That's all there is to that. Something else I like to do, I got a dead blow hammer. Sometimes I'll just use a rubber mallet. This gasket, it's shot. It's got like a crack in it, so it don't matter to me if it gets ruined, but I'll kind of tap along the float bowl, which that piece I was telling you about, that was out coming out. Not a big deal. But tap around the float bowl and that kind of should loosen that bowl up. So another good trick you can use. These are the screws that came out of the float bowl. I'm just showing you those to show you they're all the same size. So you don't have to worry about keeping up with which hole in the float bowl they came out of. You know, they're all universal. I try to, you know, work the float bowl around easily, getting it off so I don't mess up, you know, hit the float and bend it, mess up the adjustment. Now on this carburetor, obviously here's the gasket, and see if I can get it at an angle. I'm gonna have to get the screwdriver where you can see it, where I can point to it, but the float bowl gasket goes around back in here. Well, this piece right here takes these 3 Phillips screws. It's got to come off because there's like a couple little pieces here that fit on top of that gasket, and it will not come off. If you try to take it off, you'll end up ripping it. So that is why I'm replacing it. It had a tear in it, which right now I'm not seeing, but I had to take this carburetor apart and clean out the jets, which if you ever had to do that, that's one of the jets there. But how you do that, you can just take a screwdriver, which this is hard to do with one hand, but I'm not going to take it out, it's already clean. But you just take that out, or you use the pliers, but you have to be careful not to break these ears off when you're taking them out. But I always use like a torch tip cleaner. There's a little hole there. I run the torch tip cleaner through there, and I spray it out with carburetor cleaner, and then I blow compressed air through it. And I do that with all the passages whenever I clean a carburetor. But that's another video, maybe, if I ever have to do that with this. This one I'm just replacing the bowl gasket. This, luckily, you know, I did it off camera. I tried it, and luckily these screws weren't on very tight. So I was able just to take them off with a screwdriver, which in all reality, there's no really good reason to torque them down as tight as they'll go. So just wanted to show you that. I'll probably come back when I got all these loose and I'll pull that off. Okay, I got them loose. We'll see if I got them all the way where this will come off. And I do, but I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll try to turn this without losing the screws. That gasket, see how it goes underneath that? That's why you have to pull that out to get that gasket off. I figured, what the heck, while I got it apart, I'll just show you. You know, I'm not going to do it, but I'll give you an idea. Torch tip cleaners, if you have to clean the jets, I would spray it out with carburetor cleaner, run this in and out of it. Obviously, I'd have that out. I'd do all the passages. I would blow compressed air through it. I would look through it, you know, have a light back behind, see if you could see through it. But I would do that with, you know, all these jets and ports. But it's like I said, I don't have to on this one. But I thought, while I'm here, I'll just show you that. Here's what I ran into on my new carb gasket. I ordered it. This was supposed to be the right part. This is the part that I had. That part that I showed you had the 3 screws that you had to take that apart to get this carburetor gasket, the bowl gasket off. This part's underneath that, so I'm going to match these up. And I'm going to take a pin, trace that. I'm going to cut this part off and mount that back underneath that other piece, and then use the bowl gasket. Because what's going on with this one, and now that I'm looking for it again, right here. You can't see that, but it actually broke the last time I took it off. It's broke right there, and it's kind of went back together. But it ain't right. It's sucking air there, so I got to replace it. But that's what I'm going to do with this. This is that piece that I trimmed up. And how did that go? Had to go like that on the carburetor. So I'm going to mount that back in that other piece, and then mount the bowl gasket and go from there. All right, I got the gasket that I had to cut off, the old bowl gasket. I got it mounted under here. I've got this gasket test fitted to make sure it's going to seal properly, and it is. So I'm just going to put the screws for the bowl back on, and I'll have this carburetor back together. Okay, what I did, I set the gasket, obviously the carburetor's upside down. I set the gasket down on the carburetor, put the bowl down on top of it, put the screws through, and got them all started. I've got them all loose. That way if I needed to shift the gasket around or the bowl around to get the screws to start, I could. I'm just going to go around and tighten all these up. And you don't have to manhandle them when you're tightening them up. Just give them, you know, a good snug. And I forgot to mention, I try to do this anytime I got a carburetor apart, which I looked at this one. I moved the float up and down, and I always check the needle valve to make sure that it's not sticking. This one wasn't. I'm going to show you another thing, and I'll probably have to end this video because I'm working outside. I know it looks bright on the tractor, but the sun is starting to set on me, so I don't have any lights out here. But when you go back to put this carburetor back on, it's pretty straightforward. Just the order that I took it off, just reverse that. I'll probably, when I go to put it back on, I'll probably put the goes like this. I'll put the fuel line on first. I'll start that. Then I'll start the nuts, and I'll just finger tighten them. I'll put it back, put the air breather pipe back on, and then I'll put the choke throttle, or choke cable I mean, back on, and then I'll snug everything back up. I'll probably snug my fuel line first, snug these bolts for these bolts right here for the carburetor, and then I'll tighten up the choke cable, and I'll probably get me some hose clamps and tighten down that breather line, and that'll be it. But I'm going to show you one more thing that I had to do on this before I close out the video. This is what I was going to show you on the bottom of the carburetor. It has that little plate, which had that arm on it that slid up into this part and screwed on. Well, when I took that off, this thing, I can't remember how it worked now, if it was just this piece was kind of stuck to that arm, but I pulled it off, and the gasket on this was, I guess, sticking to both sides, and it kind of ripped it. So for now, I put an O-ring on it because I want to get this back together. So like I said, I'm running out of daylight, but I will take this back off. I'll get some gasket material and I'll cut out a gasket for it. But I think that O-ring is going to work for now. You know, there shouldn't be any gas really coming out of that area. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. If you run into this, you need a quick fix, an O-ring will do the job. That's what I'm going to use, but I am going to correct that. I am going to put gasket material in it when I have more time. So like I said, I don't know if you can see out there or not. The sun is setting on me, so I got to get this done before dark. Before I go, I just thought I'd show you. This is the cat that keeps meowing when I do a lot of my videos. So she wanted to make an appearance. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope maybe it taught you something. If nothing else, maybe, you know, if you didn't need to know how to change your gasket on the float bowl, maybe it was useful to you how I showed you how I use the pliers to remove the screws, the Phillips head screws. And I use the pliers to do that. Maybe you didn't know that. Maybe that taught you something. But I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you don't care, like and subscribe. Feel free to comment. I will try to answer all the comments. Hope you have a good day. I'll see you next time.